Hello everyone and welcome to This Nintendo Life episode 119. My name is NBZ and let's have a drum roll please because E3 is coming very soon. This episode, you will notice, has not gone up on a usual Monday, and that is because, of course, E3 is coming on this Tuesday, which is June the 12th, I believe, and that is when Nintendo is going to be talking about all their E3 things, and we're going to be talking about them as well. And joining me, as always, to talk about all those things is Bally. How are you doing, Bally?
Hi, MZ. I am very excited. I think more so than most E3s just because of where we are sort of with the Switch now here and everything that's coming, and it's had a good launch, it's had a good start, and now this is, I guess, phase 2 of what happens with Switch.
Yeah, it's been so wildly successful, and Nintendo have done such a great job, especially last year, of supporting it, and this year, we're kind of in the dark right now. Like, aside from Octopath and Mario Tennis, we're not really knowing what's going on past the summer. So, with Smash on the horizon, with the potential of these rumors of, obviously, Pokemon got revealed now, but also the potential Star Fox thing, I don't know. It could be a very exciting E3. There could be a lot of surprises, but there's also the trepidation that maybe a lot of it has been spoiled already because leaks. But
which makes predictions harder.
It does definitely make them harder. So just to lay it out for you guys, this show, which is up before the weekend, and we're going to have another show basically. So you'll get that in your feed on Tuesday as soon as we can get it up. We should be recording it as soon as we've watched the Nintendo Direct, which is what they're calling it this year. It's not a showcase. It's not a
spotlight.
It's not a spotlight presentation. It's not whatever other weird jargon Nintendo uses for every single. Why is it that they change it every year at E3? They make a point to be like, "Oh, E3, we are never the same. We're always different."
It is bizarre because they were so sort of consistent with the naming of Directs that they could have just gone with that, but they didn't. They didn't want.
They could have done. Yeah, they wanted to make it quote unquote special, but I guess people have realized that the Direct is still a special thing. So, in any case, we will be putting that up. So that's going to be Tuesday, the 12th of June, and then our next regular show will be 2 weeks after that on a normal Monday. So, should be back to regular after that. But that's just to let you guys know that there will be an extra episode, and it will be up as soon as possible because we know it's a hot time at E3. People want the hot takes, and we are here to provide them. So that will be happening. And then before we start again, we have a backlog club coming up, which is Punch-Out on the Wii. Bally and I have both been getting into that. It's been a lot of fun. I streamed some of it the other day. So get going on Punch-Out. Send your emails, of course, about Punch-Out to our email address, which is, Bally?
ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. And mention Punch-Out on our Discord server. So hit the link on our Twitter account, which is at
the link for our Discord is also always in the description for the podcast, so you can go there and get it from there.
Head on over there and we'll get some chat going on Punch-Out Wii.
Yes, absolutely. So without further ado then, Bally, could you please let us know the lay of the land for today's show?
For our first segment, we're going to be talking about what we have been playing, and then for this prediction special, it's going to be a 2-segment show. So our second segment is going to be our predictions. We're going to have 3 serious ones and 1 more fun one, and then we're going to go through a few of your predictions that you guys have been sending into us. So yeah, a 2-segment show.
Absolutely. A lot of things that we could talk about, a lot of things that we already know about. So again, it's going to be a fine line to balance. But we will get to that after the break. Before then, we are going to talk about the video games in the past couple of weeks we've been digging our teeth into. Bally, what have you been playing?
I finished up Runner 3. Good. I think that it was very strong right up till the end. I did really enjoy it. I think the game never wowed me as much as I thought it might, perhaps. And I think that actually the bosses might have been part of that. I think the bosses were much better in Runner 2.
I don't actually remember the bosses in Runner 2. I think the weird thing that I found about Runner 3 was that the bosses were actually one of the easiest parts of the game.
Yeah, it was weird.
None of them were super challenging.
Maybe apart from the final boss.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they give you really nice checkpoints in those, as opposed to the rest of the game where the checkpointing could have been better, right? Because these levels are so much longer than Runner 2, yet they still only have one checkpoint per level. I think they should have added an extra checkpoint in each level to break it up a bit more, to make it more manageable for people. But it felt like it was more punishing in that sense, and yet you get to bosses, which should be like a big challenge, but they make them a lot easier because they break it down into kind of smaller chunks, as it were.
Yeah, that is a very good point. It's a bit strange that the bosses were easy because of the amount of checkpointing, and the levels were just the opposite. But yeah, I just think 2 generally made a much bigger impact, and I think...
Do you think that's because it's the first time you've done that concept as well, to some degree?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's always, when you have a strong concept in a game, it's difficult to iterate on that sometimes in a sequel.
Right, Splatoon 2 is a big obvious one, yeah.
And I think this is a similar situation where Runner 3 is still a great game, and I'd highly recommend playing it, and I had a great time playing it. It's just that it didn't make as big of an impact, mainly because the first game, or the second game, I guess, Runner 2 was so good.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So yeah, not much more to say on that really. I think it was definitely worth checking out. That's Runner 3.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those games that I'll keep going back to on Switch, just because I like it as a background game to like go for a gem run or something.
Sure.
It's because the way it works with your brain is very different. It uses a different part of the brain than what is kind of paying attention to like a TV show or a podcast or whatever. So it's very easy to multitask with it. So always good to just keep on the Switch for situations like that.
I'm less inclined to go back to it just because Caroline picked up Tropical Freeze for me, and I definitely want to dip into that occasionally just as an ongoing background thing on my Switch. But yeah, loads of 2D platforms to catch up on with that.
Yeah, definitely.
I've also been playing the Mario Tennis demo.
Yeah, so this is basically an online tournament thing they did over the weekend. I didn't get to play too much of it. I did the tutorial, which threw a lot of things at me in terms of the number of moves I could do and the number of buttons I could press. And then I tried to play one game and it disconnected on me, and then I kind of put it down and didn't go back to it.
Yeah.
So how was your experience overall with this Mario Tennis demo? Because I know that you're someone who is more skeptical about this game than most people.
Yeah, there's 2 things about this game that just really frustrate me. One is all of the random stuff that you have to learn, like the power shots and everything that essentially breaks up the flow of play, which I just cannot stand in a tennis game. And this game just really goes for that stuff where you got like these special recovery shots, and you charge up your meter, and your racket can break, and it won't break if you block at the right time, and you can block the special move. And it's just like, it's not needed, especially because I actually think that the basic physics of this game as a tennis game feel really nice. They feel most similar to the N64 version they have in a very long time. Nothing like the GameCube version, which I thought felt quite flat and stale and dry. The characters really felt weighty, and the shots felt weighty, and you could really tell the difference between a slice and a topspin and a flat shot. And that really wasn't the case before. So I think and obviously you can play this game without the special moves and things, but it feels a bit weird where you're kind of not playing the game the way it was designed and maybe intended to play, with all the tournaments and all these other modes and things. So
sure.
I don't know if that's great at all. And I mean, I watched a video of Kind of Funny took on IGN, and they seem to have like the main game, I guess, rather than the demo version. They were playing some matches against each other, and some of those courts are just, when I talk about breaking up play, and you've just got crap coming onto the court, and there's like a beam, a mast on like a pirate ship or something that you can hit, and it's just fixed in the middle of the court. Like, what is it like? I might be in the minority of Mario Tennis fans here who just wants Mario Tennis to go back to basics a bit more because that's the most fun. But for me, at least, it seems like others enjoy stuff on the court. I remember the good old days on the N64 when the most exciting a tennis court got was the Wario and Waluigi court. And the whole joy of that court was that it had the strongest bounce and the fastest ball speed. And that was like, whoa, this court is exciting to play on because the ball just bounced crazy high versus the other courts. And that was fun because it keeps the base game of tennis there without introducing obstacles, essentially. And I just wish that the main part of this game was the standard chords. I mean,
you know what you sound
I
like
vanilla.
right now, Bally?
I like vanilla MBZ.
You know who you sound like right now? What type of Nintendo fan? You sound like a Melee player right now. You sound
exactly
like
right.
someone who wants the good old days of their classic thing with no items and no nonsense.
Right.
And you just want to get down to brass tacks. That's exactly who you are right now.
And that's what I feel like the N64 version had, and we are so far from that now. And
and I think they were smart to do that, honestly, because quite frankly, the N64 version is just tennis with Mario characters, and I don't think personally that is particularly interesting to an audience who wants a sports game with some flair and with a twist, right? Because a lot of the people who are going to be picking up Mario Tennis are not necessarily tennis fans, are not necessarily people who would go out and buy a pure tennis game. They're in there for the wackiness and for the fun of it, and not necessarily to be competitive.
I could tell while playing online that there are plenty of people playing this who are not tennis fans because they don't know where to stand when you're serving the ball.
Right, they don't know what shot to make when, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, perhaps, and maybe I just need my more simmy style tennis game.
It's because you have a background in playing actual real tennis, probably. So
I have played a lot of tennis. This is true, and I enjoy watching real tennis. So
yes,
yeah, and I know that there's that virtual tennis game that just came out on Switch.
I think Tennis World Tour
which doesn't look great, and like they have definitely.
That's the one that's on PS4, I think, right now.
I think it's coming to Switch as well.
Is it? Okay.
But neither of those versions sound great, and there's like missing parts of that game. But I'm not dying to play a tennis game. That I just sort of picked this up, played this demo because obviously it was a demo, and I just wanted to give it a go. But it's just, I don't know. Mario is, not to mention, I just would really love something RPG related in this game. It doesn't seem like that's coming. So Mario Tennis is doing a lot of things that don't tick my boxes personally. But I'm sure this game will do fine. And there's definitely people out there I've seen who have been enjoying all the extra moves and crazy courts that it offers. So
speaking of Smash Brothers, one of the most interesting comparisons I heard was on the Bombcast this week. Ben Pack was comparing Mario Tennis to a fighting game because it has this stuff where you can basically blocking the super shot is like parrying in a fighting game, getting that exact timing, that frame perfect moment in order to stop the shot going through. And so it basically is giving that level of depth to a game that is not as intimidating as, say, a Street Fighter or something, right? And putting it in a different context. And I honestly think that's pretty interesting that Nintendo have gone down this road of making an actually rather complex game that is super inviting and will allow a wide array of people to kind of get into it quite easily.
Yeah, and like I did have a good time online. I think I would enjoy the game a ton more without all that stuff. And you weren't actually able to play the vanilla version in this demo. It was like blocked off. You weren't allowed to play without the extra stuff thrown in.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's just not for me, and that's a shame. And I think that I will lean much more towards the golf side of the Mario Sports universe, as I think I prefer those a bit more. But yeah, so I don't think I'll be.
A game that you should maybe keep in mind for the future is the Mario Golf game on 3DS. I can't remember its name, but a lot of people were very positive about that game.
Yeah.
So
and
if they don't
think
do one
Mario
on Switch
Golf will
soon,
come to
then
Switch eventually. Maybe next year, the year after that, we'll see.
It probably will do.
Finally, I played a game you're very hot on, and this is another game in the list of MBZ telling Bally what's great to give a go.
Basically, your homework since the beginning of this podcast.
And that list is almost non-existent now, I might say.
It's close, yeah.
It's getting there. And that game is Inside, which is coming out on Switch later this year, but actually came out on PS4, Xbox, and all that back in 2016. It was rated a lot of people's Game of the Year back then. Number 7 for Giant Bomb, so it was up there.
Number 3 for me. I loved it.
Number 3.
Very good.
Yeah. Behind Stardew Valley and Fire Emblem Conquest.
As a pretty competitive year actually for that top 3.
Pretty good year. I mean, 2017 was cool, but anyway. So I think this was one of the strongest, if not the strongest, mechanics-based game I've ever played. Potentially, when it comes to like setting out a mission of this is a puzzle platformer. You can beat it in about 3 hours. It took me maybe about 4 hours because that's just me.
And Bally and his time dilation.
My time machine I play my games in. it's so perfect. Nothing glitches. Everything is so well designed. Like,
he's so polished. Such a
I didn't have to go to a guide once, and that is very rare for me with
it's
puzzle
pretty remarkable, isn't
platformers.
it?
Yeah.
That, like, the way the game is designed is so incredibly perfect. It's paced to a T so that you are learning new concepts and then implementing them later in a situation which seems difficult, but also when you overcome it, you're like, oh, why didn't I think of that? And that is a perfect solution. And it's just constantly doing that, as well as surprising you along the way and just throwing in these weird things that you have no idea what's going on. And it's a very atmospheric game, as we've kind of discussed. And I know that you come down pretty more negatively on the kind of narrative aspects of this game, which I would say are kind of non-existent, because it's less of a narrative and more of a tone, mood, atmosphere type of thing going on.
Yeah, it's tone and mood, but at the same time, it's definitely not it's not absent of narrative in the same way. Like it's trying to tell you something. You're just working out what it's trying to tell you. And and you can interpret that in lots of ways. And so, without spoiling it, I really sort of wanted a bit more. I wanted more of a resolution, you might say.
Yeah.
And that's my personal taste. And it's one of the few times where I'm like, I can absolutely accept that this game is great and amazing, but I don't personally like it as much as everyone else, based on that sort of empty feeling it left me with at the end. And like, there were others online, like Greg Miller you had mentioned, who felt similar things playing it. And but detaching mechanics from storytelling and that kind of thing, like the mechanics were so good that I just have to accept this is a fantastic game, and I enjoyed it very much based on that level. But yeah, like I said, there's just some stuff that it was hinting at all these sorts of things and giving me loads of ideas, and I wanted to see where those ideas would go, and it felt like I was just putting them into a bit of a black hole to some degree. And I wanted a bit more. But Inside, I think it's coming out on Switch later this year. I'd highly recommend picking it up on Switch. It doesn't take long.
It's such a short experience that you should go through it regardless. And I hope it runs well on Switch, because that's one thing that I was worried about. And how do you feel about that situation now, having played it on PS4? Because to me, despite the fact that it's a 2D game, there's a lot of depth going on. There's a lot of lighting and shadows. Like, it is a really remarkable looking game as well.
I mean, from little trailers and things that I'd seen before, I thought, what? Of course this can run on Switch. Like, there's not much to this game. And then but when you play it and there's some areas that you go to and things that you see, you're kind of like, wow, this game is processing a lot that I wasn't expecting, and it's interesting to see if the Switch can do that well without looking like you're playing through Vaseline or something, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm sure it can. It just depends on how good the port is, right? Because we've seen so many situations, like Rhyme being the prime example of it just being an awful port that doesn't run in any way. And yet you look at, and obviously this is an unfair comparison, but you look at first-party games like Mario and Zelda, and they are close to flawless. Obviously, Zelda has a lot of frame rate issues, but like Mario Odyssey, 60 FPS looks incredible, just so bright and colorful and everything. But again, unfair advantage because it's Nintendo and they made the hardware, and they also have an incredibly high budget to do all that stuff.
Yeah. But so it'll be a real shame if Switch players have to pay a premium for a much lesser experience as a result. That'd be a real shame.
Yeah,
because it's a good game.
It's kind of what you get with the system of the Switch, though, right? Like, people who play Doom on Switch are inherently getting a worse experience, but where else can you play Doom portably? Right. It's a trade-off. And honestly, for something like Inside, I would say, and this is why I suggested it to you, is like, it's not a game that you need to play portably, because it's one of those experiences that you sit down and do in one go, or at least in a couple of goes, and you sit in front of the TV, and it doesn't take a lot of time. And I think actually it kind of robs it of some of the atmosphere if you are playing it portably, because you want to have that big screen experience with it and kind of really dig in. Did you try and find any of the secrets in this game or any of that stuff?
I found a couple, and I know that those secrets lead to something that I looked up later and don't want to spoil.
Yes, kind of secret ending type thing going on.
But I mean, they were fine. I don't know. They were.
That was one of the things that I enjoyed, was that it had those more difficult puzzles to go after if you were willing to look for them. You know,
Right.
if you found the main game too easy, which I can see some people saying. Personally, I thought obviously they pitched it perfectly in terms of like the curve of the difficulty.
Yeah.
But there will be people who figure things out much faster, and having those secrets in there, I think, was a smart addition to kind of help those people along. So, yeah, to me, it is still one of the great design masterpieces of this generation. Just from the standpoint of, here is a puzzle and here is how it's layered into the rest of the game, and here is how it's put in context of this world.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about context with something like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Inside is filled with context when it comes to that stuff, and I think it is pretty remarkable.
And there are a few puzzle platformers that when I beat them, I go and watch like 3 45-minute videos online with people's interpretations of what goes on and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So in that aspect, it's doing something that a lot of other games just simply aren't, and that's cool. And I appreciate the game for that, even if I don't personally enjoy the resolution.
Yeah, fair enough.
MBZ. What have you been dabbling in? Have you been using that fortune cookie much at all?
That fortune cookie that you forced me to use last time when I got a Castlevania game. I did it again. Guess what, guys? We got the next fucking Castlevania game.
Out of how many did you get? Like out of 200 games, 150 games or something?
No, like there's like 90 or so on my unplayed right now.
There's a tiny backlog there.
So it chose Order of Ecclesia for me, which I started already, so I guess I'm into that now. So Castlevania is my life for a bit, and it will continue to be because I have been playing the recently released Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. I would love to tell everyone that I've been playing it on my Nintendo Switch happily. Unfortunately, basically I was a backer of the Kickstarter for the game that hasn't come out yet, that this game is a prequel to, which is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So I backed that back in 3 years ago now, maybe. And what they do for backers is if you did it at a certain level, which I did basically to the game level, which is just to get the game, a copy of the game on Steam, they were like, okay, so you people get a free copy of Curse of the Moon. And it's a $10 game usually, so it's not that expensive anyway if you want to pick it up. But I get a free copy of it. However, because the codes, the download codes, are based on the console manufacturer and not on the developer, they didn't have any codes for consoles yet. So Switch, PS4, Xbox were out of luck. So what they basically did was they gave us a temporary Steam code, which is essentially a copy of the game on Steam that will evaporate from our library after a certain date. So it just disappears essentially until we have our actual copy, so I will eventually own this on Switch. Right now I've played it on Steam. It's a bit of a faff, but luckily I'm someone who has a PC and a controller and can work all that stuff, so I wasn't too bothered about it. Would have been nice to play it portably first time, but the thing about this game is it is kind of replayable. It's only 2 hours to 3 hours long, depending on what mode you choose to go through. And it is essentially a classic Castlevania game. So, Bally, you know that they're the two eras of Castlevania. We have basically
the level-based
Castlevania
earlier ones, and then the Metroid-based, I guess.
Basically, yes.
Not open world, that's an awful phrase to use. Yeah, you know what I mean. Metroidvania.
Yeah, the sprawling maps, the kind of grid paper-based map that you fill in as you go along,
right.
Designed after Metroid.
What was the first one of the second type?
That is Symphony of the Night.
That's the PS1 one.
That's the PS1 one that I played on Vita. And so Ritual of the Night, which is the one that is still going to come out, is obviously the name is based on Symphony of the Night. So that's why it's kind of calling back to that era. So basically Castlevania 1 up to 4, and then there's Rondo of Blood, and there's another one in there somewhere. Those games are basically level to level. You fight a boss at the end, and they're all really fucking hard. Like, really insanely hard. And I played Castlevania 1 last year, maybe 2 years ago, on Wii Virtual Console, and really enjoyed it. There's something about Castlevania and its mechanics, and the way that there's a fuck you about it that I enjoy, in a sense that I don't enjoy about the Mario games. Like, it feels more weighty to me. It's maybe a similar thing to DK, right, with you, where it's just like
it's all
there's
a bit more
heaviness,
deliberate.
there's deliberate. Yes, you really need to plan your moves, and there's a feeling that you can learn a pattern or a level and you will be a master of it, essentially. And so, like, every time you jump in those games, you can't adjust your jump midair. Like, you are committed to it and you have to deal with the consequences. And every time an enemy hits you, you get knocked back. Which, if you are jumping over a pit onto a ledge and there's an enemy on that ledge and you get hit, well, there goes your life, because you just lose your entire health bar when you fall down the cliff. So that in mind, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon brings back a lot of those elements. It looks like an 8-bit Castlevania game. The color palette is very much that. Even one of the characters, Zangetsu, who's the sword guy, is this pretty deep red, which is reminiscent of the color that Simon Belmont was in the original Castlevania. So it's pretty much a direct callback in that way. The difference, of course, is that with it being a modern game, they're able to do much higher quality pixel art. The backgrounds can have crazy parallax scrolling going on that wouldn't have been possible back then. And they can just add in a whole lot of flair and pizzazz to make it feel like an old game that you're playing, but actually have the modern kind of look to it that makes it feel like it was released today. And I know, Bally, you watched some of a video that I did on it, but like the boss that I faced near the end of that video, it's almost like something out of Shovel Knight, you know, like it's this really
nice.
and
it looks so much better than an NES, and that's where you can have a game that calls back to the NES without being sort of as monochrome, maybe, and you can have bosses that do really interesting things and have really interesting sound design and that sort of thing, and I really appreciate that in games like this.
Because it, as a lot of people will say, when they went back to Ocarina of Time on 3DS, they're like, oh, I remember it looking like this. But then if you present them with what Ocarina of Time on N64 actually looked like, they would be like, oh dear God, I didn't realize how bad this looked. So it is one of those mind's eye things, kind of like, oh yeah, this looks like an old NES Castlevania. Whereas in actual fact, it's doing a whole lot more under the hood, and it is
I'm sure at some point someone's going to make a game that is more authentic to the NES, and then people are going to be like, this is horrible. Like,
this sucks.
And the thing, they're so smart making a game that's more authentic and think people will like it, and it just won't be. The games have moved on.
Yeah, and speaking of modern conveniences, one of the smartest things this game does is it takes from Fire Emblem in the sense that there is a casual mode and a veteran mode. So in veteran mode, you have limited lives and you get knocked back when enemies hit you. Whereas in casual mode, you have unlimited lives and you don't have any knockback. So they basically are catering to as many people as possible. If you love the challenge and the bullshit of old Castlevania, that's fine. You can do that. You can bang your head against a level till you learn it front and back, and have that limitation. Or alternatively, you can go on the casual difficulty, which is what I did for my first playthrough, because knowing that I had this limited time on the Steam one, I didn't want to get to a place where I'm like, oh, I'm going to spend too long before finishing this game, but I will, when the Switch version gets to me, I will go through on veteran on that one, just to get that experience, because I did play through. The nice thing about it is you can actually switch on the fly, so whenever you start up the file, it will ask you, do you want to do casual or veteran this time? And so even if you start on veteran and you want to go back, you can do that, which is, I wish more games did that. I wish more games had on the fly difficulty that you could switch whenever, because when things don't do it, it really frustrates me, especially, hey, call back to Fire Emblem. In Awakening, you can't do that. You can't change from casual back up to normal, which I wish they would just allow that, because it seems like an unnecessary thing to constrain on the player for no good reason. But in any case, going through on casual was really cool because it let me feel like I wasn't worried about the difficulty, and I was able to get a feel for the levels and get through them relatively quickly, and just really experience the whole game, because it does open up a little bit after that. You have an extra mode added that apparently changes a whole bunch of things that I didn't know about, and people have been talking about them, and it feels like, because it's such a short game, and the levels are designed in a way where they are pretty memorable. This is one of the things that I will compare this to. Is last year I played Mighty Gunvolt Burst on Switch, which was basically a Mega Man game, and if you ask me about it now, I could basically not tell you anything about the level design. It was very forgettable. It didn't, like Mega Man 2, I can tell you screen by screen for some of those Robot Masters, but for Mighty Gunvolt Burst, I don't know. Whereas Bloodstained definitely has that more reminiscent feel to it. It's like, oh, I know what level this is. I remember doing this part a bunch. There's a distinctiveness to the design that stands out a bit more. So I think it is an eminently more replayable game, and so I do look forward to going through it again on Switch. And the music is fantastic. It really does evoke that old Castlevania vibe. And the other thing that I haven't really talked about is the main difference in this game is that you play as 4 different characters. And the way it works is that if one of your characters dies, you don't lose a life, but you can't use that character until you've game overed, basically. So you have to lose all 4 characters in order to lose 1 life, and then you come back with all 4 characters. And it's very flexible. You can change your character whenever you want, just mid-fight. You can use the fact that you have multiple HP bars in a boss fight to be like, okay, I'm going to use this character until they're down to like 2 health points, and then I'm going to switch over to another character so I have another full health bar. So it really changes the strategy when it comes to the boss fights and when it comes to just getting through the levels, especially in veteran mode. You're going to be doing a lot of switching. You're going to be wanting the different powers for each character, because some of them can, like Gebel, for example, who is basically the Alucard equivalent from Castlevania 3. A lot of this game based on Castlevania 3, by the way. Which also had multiple characters, although you couldn't switch between them on the fly. And that game also had kind of branching paths. And this one has branching paths, but they're just within the level. They don't take you to separate levels. You'll do the same levels every time, but each area will have a branch that kind of maybe gets you a secret or gets you something different. And so, yeah, as you're going through, you're changing constantly these characters and you're using their different abilities. One of my favorite ones is Alfred, who I think that's his name, is the old wizard guy. He's like yellow and he has a stick, very short range stick, and it's very slow to recharge, but he has super powerful magic. So one of his abilities is to freeze enemies. So you just do this massive ice beam through enemies and then you just like crack them with your staff and they just smash into pieces, and it's very satisfying. So I enjoyed him for that. But it always feels good in these games to use a whip. And Miriam, who's the main character of Ritual of the Night, is a playable character in this game. And I used her for most of the time because she has a high jump and she can whip and she can slide. It feels like classic Castlevania when you play as her. So she was kind of my go-to. But overall, I would say, even if you're not a huge fan of old Castlevanias and the difficulty has turned you off before, but you still like the mechanics of those games and you think, you know, I would be into a game of this style that's quick to pick up and play and very replayable, I would say it is absolutely worth it. It's only $10, which is really good, which I think is like $8.99 probably on the UK eShop. I haven't checked personally.
Is this the game to get me into Castlevania?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. If you want to get into a game like this, there's no better entry point because it gives you that flexibility and it offers you the kind of nice fallback. You're not having save states, but you don't need them in this game because it gives you the options and the modern features that will aid you on your quest, I guess. So yes, Bally, at some point, if this goes on sale, I'd recommend you give it a go. It's really good. I think it's one of the biggest surprises of this year, honestly, because I didn't even know they were doing an 8-bit kind of retro style game for the Kickstarter, and I just got an email out of the blue a couple of weeks ago being like, oh hey, can you update your preferences on what platform you want for this bonus game? I'm like, okay, I don't know what this is going to be, but I said Switch because it seemed like pixel art game has no problems on Switch earlier, talking about how inside we're both afraid of the port. When it comes to like a pixel art game, I am never afraid, so I had no issues playing this game on Switch. It's why I've said for the main game I'm still going to do it on Steam, because I just don't know what the port of that game is going to be like on Nintendo.
I think you've been scarred a bit by Rhyme.
Yeah, I have, definitely. And I've seen other examples that have fared poorly, and we're still in a place where there aren't that many good port. One of the games I've been playing a lot, which I haven't talked about on the show yet, is Skyrim on Switch, and that is one of those games that I am absolutely shocked at how well it runs. It is kind of staggering to me that a game that was almost broken completely on PS3 is so smooth and so perfect on Switch. It's been really good. So there are examples of big games that have done it right. I'm a little bit wary when it comes to that stuff. But in any case, yeah, I have a high recommendation for Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. You should check it out. It's really good. We'll keep you busy while you are watching press conferences this weekend. So could be good for that. Okay, I think that's pretty much going to wrap us up for this segment. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the break with some of our E3 predictions. We'll be back after this. Alright folks, welcome back to the second half of the show, and today of course the time hath come. It is time to talk about the E3, which is happening very soon, and there are things that are going to happen. Bally, give me a hype check. What's your hype check right now for E3? Where is it on your clock? Are you max level,
I think I'm
mid-level?
like a 7 or an 8.
Yeah?
Yeah, out of 10. Yeah, it's high, and it's interesting because of the way that the console cycles have gone. The Switch is still a very young console, and then the Xbox One and PS4 are quite old consoles, so you're generally more excited about the younger consoles because they normally have the more exciting games, you might say.
I don't know if I agree with that. I would say that because the other two are in such a late lifespan, you're really starting to see the fruits of the labor of the other companies. Although on the Xbox front, it's not so hot right now. That's kind
they've
of
got to punch it out the park.
They have a lot of work to do. But I don't know. Sony seem to be firing on all cylinders. Last couple of years has been excellent for them. So I'm sure there'll be more. Obviously, they blew their load the last couple of years, which is why I think this year they're paring it down somewhat. But Nintendo still, even though we have had some leaks, still a bit of an enigma inside a mystery box. I guess we'll talk about them. I would say, would you say that the fact that the leaks have happened has de-hyped you to some extent? Is the fact that we know that this Star Fox Grand Prix thing is basically what Retro is working on, it's probably going to be revealed, has that taken some of the wind out of your sails, would you say?
I think when you're watching, say we had known nothing about that announcement and then it appeared in the direct, I think you might, it took me a while to think about it and think whether I would like this idea or not, and I think that maybe the reaction might have been a bit more negative, arguably, if you had seen it live.
Sure, I actually, maybe similar to the Mario plus Rabbids situation, right? Because that was leaked early and people were pretty negative about it, and then it was revealed and people were like, oh wait, this is actually really cool. So I think for some games a cooling down period actually works. Like imagine if Federation Force had leaked before they showed at E3. I really think the reaction to that would not have been as negative as it was if we had known it was coming beforehand, right? Like if it had been like, Next Level are working on this Metroid spin-off, people would have been expecting it, and I don't think they would have rage as much. Obviously they would have done, because where's our real Metroid game? That's what everyone was asking. But there is a degree to which, and I think Arlo said this in one of his recent videos, that it is nice to know about something so that you can have your kind of cooling off period to think about it, and then when it pops up on screen you might be mildly surprised and be like, oh, actually this looks really cool.
And there's still that excitement about what it looks like and how it
runs. And see like some of the environments and levels and that kind of stuff is exciting. So I'm looking forward to seeing that game, hopefully, as long as these rumors haven't... If we get to E3 and no one says anything about this game and then it just never comes out, I think people need to get new sources.
And then on the flip side, the logo reveal, depending on the game, is still very exciting because it makes your mind go to places where you think, what could this be? What will it look like? Those are the ones that when you kind of walk away from E3, you think, man, I'd really love to have seen a bit of what was actually in that game. But
yeah, definitely. But sometimes they do that. This year, it seems like... So they have said they're focusing on 2018. The hilarious thing about this... We know they lie about
that all the time.
They do. Like, they lied about it in the middle of the Nintendo presentation last year. Not just in the middle, but like... I believe it was... I'm not remembering his name now, but the guy, Shinya Takahashi, who is basically head of all the kind of software and hardware development. He's kind of the umbrella man. He came out and he basically said, we're only talking about 2017 games last year. And then as soon as he had stopped talking, they showed the thing for Metroid Prime 4. So it's like, okay... A little bit of mixed messaging here because clearly this is not a 2017 thing. So that I think there is a definite possibility that we see things that we may imagine to be 2019.
I mean, technically, you didn't actually see Metroid Prime 4. So
okay, all right, God, way to be pedantic
yeah.
about it, Bally. I mean, they did the Pokemon thing as well, which technically we didn't see that either. But
that was the weirdest thing. I rewatched that a little while ago, and it's like, we're working on a Pokemon game. That's it. But they kind of strung it out for about 5 minutes.
I think it was damage control, right? Because if I remember correctly, they announced Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon maybe 2 weeks before E3 happened. And so Pokemon fans were just very angry because the Switch had just been released and they wanted a Pokemon game to be announced. And then they just got, bog standard sequels to this 3DS game that come out last year, and it was a little bit disappointing for people. So that was... I felt like Nintendo saw that reaction and were like, could you quickly shoot this piece of video that we could just put into our presentation to just make them happy, to be like, yes, there's the one coming to Switch, don't worry about it.
Blue-screened Nintendo HQ in Kyoto behind them.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, pretty much. So... With all that out of the way, today we are going to be focusing on some predictions for E3. As we said, maybe a little bit difficult because a lot of stuff is known. We know about Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and obviously, that was going to be revealed before E3 anyway, because that's the Pokemon company and they do what they like. But yeah, we have some things we can talk about. Let's get into them. Bally, I would like you to begin.
Sure.
And you can go with your first prediction and... Tell me.
Say we're gonna go 3 serious, 1 for fun, same format as last year.
Sure, although knowing Nintendo,
it's all fun anyway.
It's all fun, but also like the crazy one could be the real one for all.
Exactly. So my first prediction, we're gonna focus on Smash, and we're gonna move it away slightly from Nintendo. And I think, and I've seen this floating around, but I'm gonna go with it as well. I think Banjo-Kazooie is revealed at the Microsoft press conference. Like this is one way that Microsoft get back in the game. Their characters become big again. The first party. I know it's not first party for Microsoft, but I guess it is because they bought Rare, didn't they? So I guess it is technically first party for them now.
Well, they own it, yeah.
Yeah. So Banjo's going to get revealed. I'm going to keep going. Here's more Smash predictions. The new mystery Pokemon in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee will also be playable in Smash, and that part will be revealed in the Direct.
Yes.
And then here's the kicker. Cloud breaks all the rules, Cloud meant
he does.
That characters that didn't even appear on Nintendo systems could be in Smash.
Yes.
I think Lara Croft's coming to Smash Brothers.
Oh my God. That is See, that would make sense if Square Enix also announced that they were doing Tomb Raider 2013 on Switch, just like releasing that on Switch.
I thought this as well, but then I thought they don't necessarily have to do that second part.
They don't have to do that, no, but it would be cool because that game could definitely run on Switch, and it's the type of game that the system is somewhat lacking, I think it would be really a good fit, honestly.
Yeah, so that could happen as well. And I think Lara Croft will be revealed during and then around the tournament to get some hype going with that Smash Brothers tournament. So the tournament that's taking place after the Direct, I believe.
Sure. I guess I have a similar thing in terms of...
I was just going to add one more part. And
Sure.
I think that there will be an added story mode that will have a lot of cutscenes that will be beautiful. And I think arguably that bit's a bit easier to develop because you don't have to do all the balancing mechanics and all these sorts of things with that part of the game. So that could be the extra part that makes this the extra juicy game rather than simply the port that people have been rumoring.
Potentially. So the thing that I'll say about that is Sakurai decided not to do that last time because people uploaded the cutscenes to YouTube, I feel like he's not changed his mind about that. I would love for him to do that because honestly, that was some of the best stuff in Brawl with those cutscenes because the Subspace Emissary itself it was bad. It was pretty much a chore to get through. I did not enjoy playing it. The thing with that is it's basically a Kirby game, except with Smash Brothers. Like, the level design is very bland, boring, just not very interesting, and overall it was a little frustrating to go through that. So I personally wouldn't actually like to see a single-player thing in Smash because unless they prove otherwise, I don't think they can do a good job with it. So we'll see. But so I have kind of split my Smash Brothers into two different things, and one of your things is similar to mine, but I think mine is more likely, and I'll tell you why. So, mine, which was quote unquote the crazy one, because I don't think it's going to happen, is that Banjo-Kazooie will be announced for Smash. However, it's not going to be at the Microsoft press conference, and the reason I say that is because Nintendo do not want to show their hand at another company's press conference in that way. They absolutely want to have the partnership, but for the partnership to work, I think Nintendo will make a thing saying it needs to be on their terms. And as a result, and because I don't think they will have had time to record anything with Phil Spencer, I believe that Phil Spencer is going to show up at the Smash Brothers Invitational because he's in town. He can do an on-stage appearance.
Is he going to fight Reggie?
He's going to fight Reggie. But there is going to be an on-stage appearance by him because they don't have to worry about doing a pre-recorded video or anything. He can walk out on stage and announce Banjo and Kazooie in Smash Brothers. Yeah, and that may relate to, like, for instance, you could have a situation in Microsoft's press conference where some Nintendo character is featured in something to do with Minecraft, for example, right? If I know they've done the costume packs and things like that, but if they take it a step further, if they do some implementation of, say, Mario hats in Sea of Thieves or something, right? Like, there are ways for these two companies to work together for both to mutually benefit from the current market situation. Because, right, like, Nintendo are on the up, but also they would benefit from taking stuff from Microsoft and vice versa. Microsoft having a partnership between those two companies to some degree helps them fight the big evil giant that is Sony right now, who don't want to work with either of them and are on the island on their own and are kind of in the, the arrogance phase of the generation where they are untouchable and they are kind of doing whatever the hell they want and they're not allowing crossplay, all this nonsense. So that would be my crazy one, would be Phil Spencer walking out at the Smash Brothers Invitational and announcing Banjo-Kazooie for Smash. Do you think that that's more likely than yours? Do you think you still think that
potentially, yeah. But either way, I think Banjo-Kazooie being in it would be just a great reboot of that character when not many people talk about Banjo that much anymore. Like, the last game he was in was that Nuts and Bolts, right? On the... I mean, he was in the Rare Mega Collection thing.
Yes, Rare Replay.
That's Rare Replay. Yeah. So other than that, like, it's time for him to come back.
Do you think that character like Banjo-Kazooie is a little more defunct by the fact that we have Duck Hunt and Dog, or Duck Hunt, Dog and Bird, or whatever they're called? It's just called Duck Hunt, isn't it? I don't even know what the name is.
Duck Hunt
Duo.
I think they're called Duck Hunt in one of the regions and Duck Hunt Duo in the other for some reason. I can't remember which way.
It also feels like, I think one of the skins they have feels like a little bit of a nod to Banjo-Kazooie in terms of the color palette it has.
I don't think they've ever been scared of two characters being overly similar in that game.
That's very true. So that's very true.
I think they just go for it.
And obviously, like Banjo and Kazooie, they'll play completely differently because the moveset that you can do, where like Kazooie like carries Banjo on its back sometimes, like running like a crazy chicken. There's lots of moves you can use from those games. They are kind of action platformers, and so even like I don't know, Final Smash could use something from Nuts and Bolts, although I feel like Nintendo would be willing to only use stuff from the original games in terms of drawing from character moves, because if they're taking character moves from an Xbox game, I don't know, putting Banjo and Kazooie in there in the first place is still kind of a little bit crazy, but there's potential for that to be really cool. Let's talk about some of the other characters that you said. So you said Lara Croft. Lara Croft is one that I would wonder how they implemented her in terms of her modern look, because honestly, she doesn't fit in with the roster of Smash Brothers, and that's never stopped them before in terms of people like Snake or even Ryu. But
Bayonetta.
There's something about Lara Croft is like she's kind of a real person, whereas with Ryu and with Cloud even, there is an anime aesthetic to those characters that makes them fit into the Smash Brothers universe more. So do you think they would change her design to fit more with Smash Universe?
To some degree, but then you have characters like Zero Suit Samus and Bayonetta, which I agree are definitely more animated than the Lara Croft character that is in the reboot. So, but honestly, I do think the Switch can handle it. Like there's things they can do. I know she uses all sorts of weapons in the new trilogy with like bows and arrows and that sorts of thing. So I think in terms of a moveset and ideas around that, there's quite a lot to choose from. So I think it would be not maybe as big as Cloud, but maybe almost. I think I think it's possible.
Yeah, I do wonder in terms of she's kind of like riddled with blood in her outfit, and it's not actually really a skimpy outfit, although having Bayonetta in the game already kind of goes over the line for Nintendo. So that's a possibility, but like she would have to have some pretty violent attacks, you know, like using a real gun, using dual pistols, using a giant axe to like cut into people. And Smash Brothers is always classed as kind of cartoon violence, so
yeah.
So I like the idea.
You're right.
Yeah, she's a bit real. That is the problem, and I really like the idea. My only issue is I find it hard to, in my head, envision what does Lara Croft look like on that character select screen. Does she stand out like a sore thumb? Yeah, that's my only thing I would say. But it'd be really weird if they did like classic Lara, like PS1 style Lara.
That'd be weird.
It'd be really weird and bad.
Weird. Yeah.
It would just, it would be very, very strange. And then who else did you say as a character?
The secret Pokemon in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
That is probably the best prediction you've made out of those Smash reveals, because as we know, Pokemon is something that you can never really tell until the game is out whether it's going to be a certain Pokemon or not. For example, with Greninja, as we know, Sakurai chose Greninja before X and Y was even revealed. He just went and he was like, I like that frog. That frog is cool. I'm going to make that frog. And so he made him. Even though in the game, Greninja isn't like special. It isn't promoted as the character or the Pokemon in that game like a lot of other characters have been. But also this is a series that has Jigglypuff in the roster, so who bloody knows when it comes to Pokemon anymore. It's like one of those relics that's just been sitting around forever and ever. I wonder what that Pokemon will be, because for me, I have a feeling that the mystery Pokemon is going to be some kind of legendary, and up to this point, they haven't done, aside from Mewtwo, they haven't really done a legendary Pokemon as a playable
Lucario
one.
like semi-legendary?
Lucario is more like a mascot. Like Lucario makes more sense in terms of, like Pikachu, like what the Pokemon are in that game. I don't bloody know, but like the Pokemon trainer.
Ivysaur, Charizard.
He had a movie to himself, and he also like Lucario is basically modeled after Mewtwo to some extent. He is in a similar vein because he's like using psychic style moves and things like that. So he felt like the natural evolution from Mewtwo, and then Greninja to a certain degree is also similar. They're all kind of slimish, kind of fast characters who move around.
They're like a humanoid form.
Humanoid style, yes, absolutely. And that's the thing that I'm like, well, are you going to put Aegislash in this game because it's just a sword that sits there, And Aegislash is in Pokken, and obviously Pokken has a bunch of weird characters. Like Suicune is in Pokken. It's a very strange character you wouldn't expect, but
weird.
Alas, it is still there. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like if it's a big if that special Pokemon is something that is large like a Ho-Oh, then you're not going to be able to put that into the game because it's the Ridley problem that shows up again.
I think it'll be a similar build to Lucario and will be in the game.
Okay.
Like a humanoid.
Well, let's do my Smash Brothers characters then, aside from Banjo-Kazooie, because that was my separate Banjo-Kazooie. That was my separate one. So I have the very obvious Springman Ribbon Girl. Like, that's going to happen. I'm pretty certain that that's a lock.
Oh, I actually had that in my list. I just forgot to say.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I mean, that's the one
obvious.
that is just pretty much assumed is just going to be there because clearly, why not? And then the two others I have, one is one that a lot of people have been clamoring for and I think will finally happen. And the other one is one that I think is going to happen and no one is going to be happy about it, but it makes perfect sense.
Oh, no,
so the one that I think is going to happen... no, let's start with the one I like.
Okay.
So the one I like is Simon Belmont from Castlevania.
Okay.
I think that a character with a whip is an interesting thing.
A good one.
Zero Suit Samus has a whip, but she doesn't use it for everything. Like, she uses it for certain moves. But building on that idea, you could do some really cool stuff with his moveset. Like, his jump not being able to move midair would be really fucking trollish, but I think that's the kind of detail Sakurai would want to put into a character like that.
It is a little surprising Castlevania's not represented, isn't it? Like that.
Yeah, like as a franchise that is so classic, it is a little weird, but you know, it's Konami and they're fucking Konami, so what are you going to do about it?
Had Snake in before, they might go this time with.
Exactly. So you know there is a pre-existing relationship there. Bomberman R did incredibly well on Switch. I think that Nintendo and Konami could work out a deal to have Simon Belmont in Smash, and even that could lead on to Castlevania stuff down the line, who knows. But I think that he would be a really great addition. Classic fans would be very happy with him. I think he would be a really unique character. You could use all of the special moves from the Castlevania game. So the axe that goes up in a curve. You can use the daggers that you can throw out really fast. You can use holy water. That'd be a great move. Like, this character is built to have a arsenal of Smash Brothers moves. And I think Simon Belmont would just be perfect. So I really hope he's in the game. That's my wish. And then we get to the one which no one wants, but is so going to happen. It's the Rabbids, Bally.
No.
They're going to put a rabbit in Smash Brothers.
No. Yeah.
And you know why this happens?
Gonna happen.
It's because Mario plus Rabbids happened, but also because Ubisoft want to have someone in that game, probably. They want to be represented. And what kind of characters do Ubisoft have that best fit the Nintendo style? Rayman, of course. But where has Rayman been the last few years? Disappeared. There's not a sequel to Legends. Like, both those games performed critically very well, but sold absolutely terribly. So what is something that has been popular amongst the Nintendo fanbase and has also sold really well? Guess what? It's the Rabbids. So I imagine you'll get a Rabbid who will have a Peach costume and a Luigi costume and even a Donkey Kong costume, all that stuff from the Rabbids Mario game. It's going to happen. You heard it here first.
Well,
how do you feel, Bally?
But I agree. I think that's very likely.
It's the most Nintendo Ubisoft thing possible,
I love Simon
it?
Belmont. I think he's a cool idea. I think it makes me think of some of the Fire Emblem characters. Who's the Avatar?
Corrin?
Pardon?
Corrin or Robin?
Robin. Yeah, Robin reminds me of Simon Belmont for some reason, like that jacket.
Okay.
Or I don't know. You know, that long jacket.
Sure.
Has a
that doesn't make any
that's
sense
not
to
just
me,
a
but...
sword as well.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that would be nice, and yeah, like I said, Rabbids, it's gonna happen, but I don't want it to happen, and yeah, hopefully Banjo happens as well.
All right. So should we move on to your second prediction?
Sure. My second prediction focuses around Star Fox Grand Prix.
Yeah.
I think it's real. I think the leaks are legit. It's coming out this year. I think it's gonna have a story mode like F-Zero GX. It's like heavily cutscene focused. There's going to be like bosses in there that you're both racing and shooting down.
I mean, that is part of the rumor that it's Diddy Kong Racing.
Right, you know? Right. I've got more.
Okay.
And I think Retro, having worked on the Prime trilogy, will not be able to resist the temptation to stick Samus's gunship in this game.
Oh my god, that's a good call.
I think it'll be in there. It might not be. This is the thing. It might not be revealed at E3. It might be. might be
I
banned
feel like
out
that's
later.
I feel like that's like a secret unlockable. Like after you beat the campaign or something. you
Maybe,
unlock
but I mean,
that.
it might be part of the trailer as well. So that's
It
why
could be, yeah.
it's in there. So that's
Look, I mean, Samus's gunship is a car in Rocket League, so there's every reason that Retro should be able to do that in their own game. You know,
exactly. So I think they've got all the models sitting right there from the Prime trilogy. So they're gonna stick it in that game, and hopefully the model from Prime 1. I think that more oval shaped.
Yeah, that's the one that
distinctive.
I think is the most iconic, probably.
Yeah, I'd like if that one was. But they might have all three of them in. I don't know. There could be multiples. We'll see.
That's a good call. I like that twist at the end there. So by F-Zero GX, you mean that it's going to have cutscenes more than it's going to have, because the structure of F-Zero GX, as I understand it, that's just straight racing. Like that's just like a Mario Kart thing, but with increasingly more difficult challenges, right? Am I
No,
wrong?
that's not the story mode. There's a separate story mode that has cutscenes and specific challenges that are more similar to the mission mode in Mario Kart on DS, for
Oh,
example.
really?
Yeah,
I never
like
knew that. I always assumed that F-Zero GX's difficulty was just the races are really fucking hard.
Oh,
and
it's
just...
like there are time trials. You have to collect all these things in 2 laps. You have to
What?
beat this one other car. You have to blow up this other car. There's also, because you have like attacks in that game. You can like
man.
bosh the car with like certain spin attacks and things like
I
that.
never knew this about this
Yeah,
game.
so
You're opening
F-Zero
up my
GX
eyes.
has a lot of depth to it, and that story mode is part of it. One part of that story mode I hate is that beating missions in the story mode gives you money, and with the money you buy the next chapter in the story mode.
Oh,
So-
right,
and
yeah,
you-
it's one of those.
And by beating just the story mode on normal doesn't give you enough money to get to the next one. You have to like do Grand Prix to get money, and
I have to grind it out.
you have to like grind out the same mission on hard and then extra hard, and you can get extra money to unlock the next level. And it's like, oh, come on, just give me the
Yeah,
next
that
level.
is... That's
But those
rough.
cutscenes are very good. The voice acting is corny and hilarious and works for that game. And I think a corny, hilarious cutscenes would be perfect for Star Fox.
I mean, yeah, that is Star Fox, isn't it? Like, it is bad voice acting, and it is these characters interacting with each other on the team. I think, if you throw in some cutscenes, because I didn't even think about it in that way. I just thought about it in terms of similar to Diddy Kong Racing, where you're just in a hub world, and that hub world just takes you to different areas, and you just go racing them. But if you frame a story around it, absolutely, like that gets me even more invested than I am already. So yeah, I hope we see a lot of that game at E3. I hope it's kind of one of their main spotlight titles, and people get to play it there, and we get some good impressions of it, and see how the multiplayer works and how the single player works and all that good stuff. It will be exciting.
And Bizo, what's your second prediction?
So my other 2 predictions are both based around Metroid. Let's go with the boring one first. So Metroid Prime Trilogy will be announced for the Switch. However, it will not just be Metroid Prime Trilogy. It will be like the Super Nintendo Classic had 20 games plus 1. This is going to be Metroid Prime Trilogy plus Hunters. They're bringing it back, baby. Hunters from DS, remade for the Switch, up-resed and redone in HD. Give me some Hunters, yeah. So that's what I think. Obviously, Prime 4, I do not think is coming out this year. They may show a tiny bit of it, but to satiate people, to hold people over, it only makes sense to release the trilogy again. The tough part about that is obviously they have to retool the motion controls from 3 into normal controls if you want to play it portably. And obviously they have the basis for the normal controls from 1 and 2, even though when they did 2, they changed the difficulty on 2 as well. So I feel like they might just refigure out the Wii motion versions and put those on the Switch. But it's going to be a new package, but it will be Prime Trilogy plus Hunters, because we love Hunters. Could throw some pinball in there as well. Again. Yes, and I also will buy it again, even though I'm someone who actively dislikes that entire series.
You've got to play Prime 1. God damn it.
Bally, let me tell you a secret. Now that I have my shit all set up, I wanted to play through Metroid Prime and do the thing where, like, one day I just say, oh yeah, by the way, I beat Prime. Started playing it. I was like, these controls feel like fucking shit. I can't.
Oh, you started playing it.
I jumped back into the save that I had from when, you remember, we played it together when you came over.
Yeah.
That one time ages ago.
And you were like, I can't do this.
I was just like, I have to like hold my arm up because so the way my table works is my table is above my arms if I'm just resting them on my lap. So I can't rest and play this game properly.
Yeah,
I have
it's definitely
to have
better with a
my
GameCube
arms...
pad. I can lend
It
you
is.
my GameCube disc at some point if you want.
Yeah, maybe that's the best way to do it because I was just like, I can't fucking deal with these.
Well, I mean, if it comes out on
controls.
Switch in HD, it'll go back to those joystick controls. So
I
you
guess.
could give it a go on
But
that.
like that game controls awfully. Like they don't use the second stick for camera. Like because as now I'm someone who is so used to using a second stick for pointing the gun in first-person games.
Yeah. It's not a dual stick shooter in the slightest.
It's not, and it just feels awful because of that. And I was like, I played it for about 10 minutes. I'm like, I feel sick. I don't want to play this. This is awful. This is not fun. I'm putting it down again.
No.
So who knows? In the future, I might go back to it. But at the moment, I am
One step at a
very,
time.
very
One step
not
at a time.
into that game. So yeah. Anyway, that said, they're gonna put that game out again, and I'll
Cool.
buy it because I'm a moron. So
Nice. So
Yeah.
I think that's perfectly likely, and I would welcome
Yeah.
it gladly.
I'm sure you would.
Shall I move on to my third prediction?
Yes, please.
NBZ.
Yes.
Would you believe if you, assuming you count Triforce Heroes as a regular Zelda game, which I know is jumping a few hoops here.
Triforce Heroes.
Triforce Heroes indeed. And ignore all the remakes and the re-releases, the HD remakes. When do you think was the last time there was more than a single year gap between Zeldas?
Oh my god.
So when was the last time that there was 2 years between two Zelda games, ignoring the remakes and assuming you count Triforce Heroes as a legit Zelda when it's not really?
I mean, Link Between Worlds was before that, and then before that was Skyward Sword, and then before that was 2009, so Link's Crossbow Training maybe?
I'm
Before
not
that-
counting that. I'm not counting that.
Okay. I'm trying to think what else was before Skyward Sword aside from Twilight Princess. I guess Phantom Hourglass Spirit Tracks would be in there. So you
Yeah.
got Phantom Hourglass Spirit Tracks in there, then you're going back to Twilight Princess, 2006, 2004 would be GameCube era, but that's Four Swords, and you go Four Swords. You're going back probably to like really far. is what you're
The
trying
answer's
to tell me.
Ocarina of Time. So,
Jesus,
So we have
wow.
had one mainline Zelda, if you include Triforce Heroes,
Okay.
at least every other year, because there's some years where you get 4 in a row.
Were you counting Four Swords in that list?
So Four Swords doesn't even need to count because it came out the same year as Wind Waker.
Oh, okay.
So you've got Ocarina of Time 98, Majora's Mask 2000, Oracle of Seasons and Ages 01, Four
Yeah.
Swords Wind Waker 02, blank 04 Minish Cap, 05 blank 06 Twilight Princess, 07 Phantom Hourglass, 08 blank. So my point is, like, there's a handful of blanks, but there's never 2 years in a row without Zelda. And we are in a year right now without a mainline Zelda.
Yes.
And I don't actually think there's Zelda coming this year. I think
No.
Zelda's coming next year.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be a teaser trailer of the Majora's Mask equivalent of Breath of the Wild.
Oh, okay.
There's every chance the next year they'll just do a quick turnaround with a 2D Zelda, and that might still
Yeah, that's
happen.
the scenario I feel like is more likely.
But I just feel like the hype was so great with Breath of the Wild and all that
It
there's-
is one of those unique situations. It's like a Mario Galaxy situation where it's like, we have magic here, let's capitalize on the rest of this magic.
Exactly. And it's funny you mentioned Galaxy because I was just going to lob in another prediction within this prediction.
Okay.
Because the theme of this prediction is that Mario and Zelda aren't at the E3, and that is weird, and no one is talking about this fact, but
Yeah.
it's madness that Mario and Zelda wouldn't be at an E3. So
I don't think that's madness. I think that happens quite often, more often than you would think, actually. But it's often in years where they have just had the big releases, right? I remember an E3 specifically where Miyamoto, or I think it was Iwata actually, who was out on stage and he was saying, and we are also working on the next series game for Zelda and for Mario, and he just showed logos, like shadows literally of Link and Mario behind him.
Right.
So it has happened before, and
I don't
it's a
think it's
thing.
happened since like the doldrum years of the end of the Wii U's life cycle. Those kind of E3s that were just so empty and bad. But so I think Mario and Zelda will both feature. Mario won't feature as much, I think. Similar to your Metroid prediction, I think this is the year, and this winter is the year that we get the Galaxy 1 and 2 HD remake on Switch.
Okay.
Because you can't go too long with that bit of Mario. And like I said, teaser trailer for next year's game, the sequel to Breath of the Wild, the Majora's Mask equivalent, a teeny trailer, not just a logo, a teeny trailer, just hinting at something that makes everyone a bit hyped. Yes,
that would of course go against their 2018 rule, but as we said, they break the rules all the time, so who knows? I feel like I agree with you in the sense that I think that the next game will very much be built off the back of ideas in Breath of the Wild, but I do think they're going to have to do something very different with it just to make it stand out in the same way that Majora stood out from Ocarina, right? Like make it a unique twist on that idea, and maybe scale it back a bit, because Breath of the Wild is just an enormity of a game, and I think in order to turn it around in a shorter space of time, you just can't have a landmass of that size. You have to have something that's a bit more pared down.
Oh, it'll absolutely be pared down a lot. I don't know if you saw Colin Moriarty's little E3 preamble video.
No, I'm just ignoring him and everything he says right now.
Well, rather than doing predictions, he came up with themes for each company and a word to describe each company and the strategy that they should be employing. And his word for Nintendo was aggression. And what he meant was they need to strike while the iron's hot. And the iron is very, very, very hot right now. It's the hottest it's been in a very long time. And I think that to leave out characters and franchises as big as Mario and Zelda in an E3 where a lot of people are going to be looking at Nintendo would be mad. As big as Pokemon and Smash are, I think it's still important that Mario and Zelda feature it to some degree.
Do you not think it's more likely that they will have a 2D Mario of some kind in the works at this point?
Yeah, I mean, that is probably more likely, but it's not what I want. So I don't do predictions.
Sure, no, totally, I get you. But I do feel that it is time for 2D Mario to reinvent itself, I feel like that is the next big horizon for Nintendo is, okay, they brought back Mario in 2D with the new Super Mario Bros. Series, but as we all know, that thing is as stale as 20-year-old bread. It's just not fun.
I mean, there's every chance that new Super Mario Bros. Switch hits this year, but I just want to pretend that won't happen.
Please don't make another fucking new Super Mario Brothers game. Please, take the idea that the Switch is this new thing and that we're doing fresh ideas with it. Please don't go back to those games because I'm just so sick of them. So sick. And I need something different. I need a refreshing art style. I need some
refreshing
new
art
ideas.
Style's a big factor, absolutely.
Yeah, reinvent it. Do something weird, like how Wario Land reinvented itself with 4 when you have the running back stuff, which wasn't in the previous games. Do that, get there, and make something different of it. So yeah,
I think there's a chance that'll happen.
That should be a thing. Okay.
What's your final serious prediction?
Yes. So this is another one that is sobering in its seriousness that people will continue to not like because it's about a 3DS game. So, as we know, Nintendo don't want the 3DS to die, ever. It's constantly alive. And they, having seen the success of Samus Returns, made by Mercury Steam, have commissioned another game from them. Mercury Steam will be working on another 2D Metroid. It will still be on 3DS. And the reason it will still be on 3DS is it because it will be another remake, and it will be the remake of Metroid Fusion that they initially pitched. And I'm probably going to be disappointed by it because Metroid Fusion, as many people know, is my favorite game of all time. So if they do something to my baby, I'm not going to be very happy.
They would be getting rid of the sprite design, surely. And
they would, obviously.
Yeah.
I am morbidly curious about what some of those bosses look like in 3D.
If you're gonna
would Ceres, the giant snake, look like in 3D?
But if you're gonna
not as cool,
get rid of the sprite design and go full on 3D, do you not want HD?
Yes, of course I do. But hey, guess what, Bally? It's a remake, and they already have that engine now for that Metroid game. So what did Nintendo do? They keep putting things out on 3DS. It's true, though. You listen to this, and I know you're bristling, and I know you want to say that it's not going to happen, but you know it's true. You know that this is more likely to happen
and
than
as
a new 2D
disappointed as we
Metroid.
were maybe with the announcement of that game, in a way, it was still a fantastic
I loved
game.
it. Like,
yeah,
hey,
I loved it.
give me more 2D Metroid, please. It really doesn't matter how much it is, like how good it is compared to the older ones. As long as it still follows that formula, I will lose myself to it. Like, I marathoned through Samus Returns, and although I had reservations in the beginning, ended up loving it by the end. So, you know, I think it's definitely going to happen. And they did tease it at the end. There is the tease with the fusion stuff, with those stupid enemies that you see in Fusion at the beginning who absorb the X-Parasite, or are absorbed by the X-Parasite. So they have left the breadcrumb trail, Bally. I think it's happening. So.
Well, I think that's very likely to happen as well. And
the only reason I would say it's not going to happen is because it's a bit of a quick turnaround. Like, that game came out September-ish of last year, so I don't know if they'll have had the time.
And it's the sort of game that they would reveal and release in the same year, so maybe it would
so it could be one
year.
for next year. But again,
and
if
3DS
it's a 3DS
just keeps
game
on going
in 2019, then that's a little bit rough. But hey,
I think the 3DS is going to outlive the PS6.
But
That's my token prediction.
All right, Bally, let's go for your final crazy bonanza prediction.
So my craziest prediction might be the most likely to happen, and I don't know. This was a bit silly how this happened, but I just thought, well, I need to include that, so maybe that could happen, and I guess that's my crazy one. Boom, done for. But anyway, Fortnite. We like it's basically
that's not a prediction.
Wait, let me finish. God,
it's confirmed. A Korean's ratings board basically put it on their website. That game is real and it's happening, and we know it.
Right, but there will be a host of Nintendo characters in that game. Well, I'm talking Samus, Mario, Link, Inklings, DK. Like, keep going. There's going to be a host.
You think actual characters, not just costumes?
Yes, characters.
Okay. All right. I mean, it is a crazy prediction for a reason, because that's just not going to happen. But
just like Thanos, you know. It's going to be Mario and Luigi.
Oh, you mean like a specific game mode with Nintendo characters in it?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. Sure. That's not going to happen. That's why it's a crazy prediction, because that's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Like, I think the thing about Fortnite is because it is a game that is cross-platform and has that integration. I just don't think that they would want, or Nintendo specifically would want, their stuff showing up in conjunction with an Xbox account or with a PC or something like that. I don't know. I feel like Nintendo are very tight.
I mean, there's definitely more likely to be costumes or a hat here and there.
I feel like costumes and hats are a shoo-in, for sure, because that's where they make the money, like selling all that cosmetic bollocks. That's a thing. Otherwise, yeah.
Well, that's why it's my silly one. There you go.
Okay, there you go. That's fine. Even when it's your silly one, I just have to just drill in and be industry analyst number one.
Bring the anvil of seriousness down on my dreams.
By the way, did you know that Fortnite and the Korean website and blah blah blah? That's me all over. I do a very good impression of myself. So, okay, well, I think that pretty much wraps up our predictions, Bally. However, people had sent in their own predictions. So
did you not have one last funny one?
I mean, I already told you my crazy one was the Phil Spencer one. It wasn't a funny one.
Right.
It was just
Never
like
mind.
that was my crazy
yours was
one.
deadly serious as well. Then okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's me. That's me in a nutshell. I'm just deadly serious all the time.
Serious.
Never laugh. My face is always sad.
We will wrap up our our results in our reaction podcast later.
Sure. Give it a brief go over just to see how wrong we were. Yeah. But we do have some emails and Discord messages from people who had sent in their predictions. So I'm going to kick off with this one from Alan from Texas, who lives in London. He says, "Hey, Bally and NBZ. Oh my days. I can't believe we're less than a month away from E3 2018. You can tell this was sent in a little while ago. Where does all the time go? It goes so far, Alan, that we're like 2 days away from it now. So it's very exciting. Oh, wait, it's all gone to Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Skyrim. Not a bad way to spend my time, I think. I agree. Anyways, you asked for our predictions, so here are my top 5 E3 2018 predictions. Number 1, Nintendo will announce NES-themed Joy-Cons, with the left one sporting the much-needed D-pad to coincide with the launch of the online service, so we can properly play or not those 20 NES games. Should we just talk about these as we go down?
Yeah, just have a quick chat in between each one.
That would be the most Nintendo thing possible to do, is make it so that the only Joy-Con that has a D-pad is a one limited edition one, and that's it.
Yeah, and they'll sell like 100 of them. And
exactly. Sell 100 and no one can buy them.
$5 billion.
That's a very good prediction, because it is so Nintendo in every way possible.
Or it only works with NES games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's... Oh, Jesus, they would do that.
There's a good chance.
There's a good chance. Number 2, EA will announce the Switch versions of the Mass Effect trilogy and Andromeda.
Oof.
No, not happening. I disagree with that one,
especially
Andromeda, because Andromeda
is that the fourth
one
that no one liked.
It's a joke, basically. It's a massive joke, and EA want to sweep that under the rug as quickly as they possibly can, so they will not be putting that over. I highly doubt that. Mass Effect trilogy may be down the line eventually. I actually think it's a good idea to get those games on there. They did do Mass Effect 3 on Wii U without putting the other 2 games on there in a series which is based around player choice and carrying over decisions from previous games. But no, EA will just put Mass Effect 3 on the Wii U and think that it'll sell well. And oh, guess what? It didn't, because you didn't put the other 2 games on there. What a surprise, EA. Can you tell I'm bitter about EA? Like pretty much everyone else.
I mean, they've got to do something incredible at their press conference. So.
I mean, they're not going to. It's EA.
Anthem could
they'll
be
just
cool.
bring out Pele for another 50 minutes and have a chat with him.
Goddamn Pele.
So, number 3, there will be an announcement of a major UI update for the Switch, including themes, YouTube, as well as other apps like Netflix, and a more streamlined eShop.
I think we're 3 years too early for this announcement.
Yeah, you're right.
we got to wait a bit longer.
As much as I would love to have that announcement, as both of us would, that's not an E3 announcement. That's definitely that's a YouTube video on a Wednesday afternoon, or in the middle of a Nintendo Direct kind of thing.
Or a press release in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
They're into those recently.
Very into those. Number 4, we'll see the first footage of Zelda and Mario Kart for mobile, and one of them will be launched before the end of the year. A lot of people always talk about mobile regarding E3, and I think
they've never done it yet, have they?
No, and I think this is the situation with Labo, and it's the situation with mobile. Anything that is tangential to their core games business, they don't want to put at E3, because that is it's not the audience for it. I mean, let's be frank, Bally, the people are buying Amiibo are all the core people. Like, that's who they are.
That's true. They're the cash cows of the situation.
Exactly. Yeah. So people like us who watch E3 and who tune in, we're not the audience for Labo or for any of that mobile stuff. So as interesting as it would be to see the Mario Kart thing, I doubt it's going to be that interesting or revolutionary for E3. So I doubt they'll do that. But it'll be later this year for sure. I'm sure we'll see that. Number 5, Capcom will announce Resident Evil 7 for the Switch, and Nintendo will force Capcom to release a Labo version of a chainsaw, which you can build and find in-game, because they want us to play it.
I love the idea of Nintendo forcing companies to do things. I'm going to force you.
But I also like the idea that this email was sent before we knew that Resident Evil 7 was coming to the Switch via this weird streaming thing in Japan. Yeah. So well done, Alan, for getting that one right. I love
that Labo's like this family-aimed thing. That now you're just going to stick a big old chainsaw.
Just kill zombies with this cardboard.
Yeah.
That's very creative. I like that one. He says, there you go, gents. What do you think? Pretty sure I'm correct about at least one of the above. Well, he got at least half right with that Resident Evil 7 thing already and we're not even at E3. But I couldn't tell you which one. Happy E3 predictions, and I can't wait to hear your post-E3 show. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Alan. Those were a good list of some fun predictions there. I enjoyed those. Who do we have up next, Bally?
So from our Discord server, we've got Capsule J, who says, Dear Bally and MBZ, since much of Nintendo's E3 presence will be centered around Smash Brothers, so do my predictions. First off, Nintendo will finally make the naming convention change that they made with Mario Kart and just call this new game Super Smash Bros. 5.
Wow, okay. That is...
possible?
That's possible. That definitely makes a lot of sense. My gut feeling, honestly, when it comes to the name of this thing, it's just Super Smash Brothers. It's just let's go back to basics. Just call it Super Smash Brothers. Make it more of a platform.
I
Make
would
it
like
a thing
Smash Brothers 5 more.
Well, I don't know, because I really think that Smash Brothers is a game that is more deserving of a games as a service type treatment in terms of like constant updates, constant additions, constant patches, always active, always open, always like continuing on to the next iteration of Nintendo hardware. Like, I do think we're past the days of making a whole new Smash Brothers game from the ground up, because it feels like it is just a monumental task for that team. But potentially that's a good shout. So
new first-party Smash Brothers characters. I think Nintendo will try to cement ARM's position as a new franchise by adding Ribbon Girl. Also, since Xenoblade 2 far surpassed its predecessors in popularity, I'm thinking we'll see representation from it. I'm concerned Nintendo will stick to their usual pattern and go with Rex or Pyra, but I'm hopeful they'll make a more interesting selection like Nia or Poppy. I'm also thinking they'll update Mario to reflect Odyssey, but if they want to go way out there, they could put Mayor Pauline in the game. At minimum, Jump Up Superstar will be a background music option. Lastly, I'm going to bet that despite his apparent popularity on Twitter, Waluigi is getting snubbed again.
Oh, friend Waluigi. I would love for Waluigi to be in Smash. He's the best. He's a nightmare of a character. I love that he is in all these sports games and party games and nothing else. He just doesn't get any good treatment from Nintendo, and it's very funny because people constantly want a Waluigi game, like all the time.
He'll end up in something a bit bigger than a sports game eventually, but I don't think now is the time. Mayor Pauline.
Yeah, I like that shout. That's a really good shout,
That'd be
Pauline. Fun. Jump Up Superstar will be in this game, guaranteed, as music. Just an Odyssey stage in general. New Donk City is pretty much, I would say, a shoe-in.
Has to be in it.
With that music in the background. Rex and Pyra I've heard floated around a lot. It's one that I can see happening, but also is not particularly interesting. I mean, it's interesting in the fact that it would be another duo character, so like Rosalina and Luma or the Ice Climbers, like it's two characters in one. But again, it's a sword-wielding character, and there are... Boy, there are a lot of sword-wielding characters in Smash Brothers with all the Fire Emblem and everything. So they could do interesting stuff with it. Like, there are stuff with the blade moves and the arts that they could bring in. Doing, like, chain attack stuff would be difficult. Like, they do that with Shulk with his Final Smash, but they don't do a lot with it otherwise. Like, there's a lot of switching Monado arts with Shulk. So I wonder how they'd implement Rex and Pyra, but I do think it's definitely a possibility. Especially because people like anime, so... And especially giant anime boobs. So, you know, that's what the people want. You got to give them what they want. Next up, Bally.
New third-party Smash characters. I think with Ubisoft's long-standing relationship with Nintendo, they will finally have a character in Smash. A Rabid.
So it's thinking along the same lines as me.
Similarly, with how chummy Nintendo and Bethesda have been this generation, I think we'll see one of their characters as well. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it'll be Doom Marine. He'll probably play similar to Solid Snake.
Well, that's an interesting
That'd
one.
Be shocking. Doom Marine.
Definitely. And it's also... So the reason I don't think that's going to happen is similar to your Lara Croft thing, feels a bit too real.
A little bit
for
real.
Smash Brothers. The other thing is, like, you play that game in first person. So, like, I know he has a look to him, but I'm not sure he's that recognizable, right? Like, it's a character who's in a suit, who's shooting a gun, and is kind of faceless to some degree. So
but the fact that it's called Doom Marine is
exactly the fact that he doesn't have a name. It's just like a blank slate of a character. BJ Blazkowicz would actually be more, maybe a little more sense.
He's very real as well, though. It's a similar
he is very
problem.
real, but at least he's a character, you know? I don't know. It's weird, because all these people are saying, oh, it's going to be Minecraft Steve. And I fucking hate that. Why does that character even have it? Why do they even call him anything? It's just like a blank avatar of a Minecraft character. Why do they call him Steve? Yeah, he's not even a fucking character. He's just a goddamn Minecraft block. He's, really pisses me off the way people talk about Steve as if he's a fucking character. He's literally the baseline. This is a white dude in Minecraft. It's very bad.
Some non-Smash predictions.
Yes.
I think the relative silence there's been on the new Fire Emblem means that it's been pushed out of 2018. I'm also expecting to find out that Ubisoft will be getting another chance to play with Nintendo IP.
Yeah, do you reckon that Miyamoto will rock up at the Ubi presser again? Or is that a one-off?
Back-to-back years seems a bit much. So
it does, yeah.
Maybe not, but...
I definitely think that Rabbids team is working on something else. I feel like they might be doing something that isn't directly the same as Mario Plus Rabbids. Maybe they take a different Nintendo IP. Maybe they take the Zelda series and do something with that instead. That could be exciting.
Or I mean, what if they're doing something exclusive with Rayman? Or I mean, if there's one system where like a 2D platform is popular, it's going to be the Switch above other systems, perhaps. So
yeah, that would be
maybe it could sell better on that, because they really went with like the Nintendo Wii U exclusivity, at least at the start. I know it didn't end up being exclusive, but that was the intention at least. So
yes,
they owe Nintendo one for that whole fiasco with
definitely,
with
yeah,
Rayman,
for sure.
So they could do something like that.
It was rough. And then Fire Emblem being put out in 2018, I think that they're just holding on to their guns. Like, obviously, we don't know much about the second half of this year, and I really think it's because Nintendo are in a place where they can do that. Like, they don't need to say anything about Fire Emblem yet, just because they're holding all the cards. Like, they are in a great place. Switch is selling well. They don't need to do anything until the time is right, and I think E3 is the time where you talk about Fire Emblem, so I think it is coming out 2018. They're just, again, holding their cards for the time being.
Since Nintendo's been going so strong lately, I'm especially excited about E3 this year. I even took both Monday and Tuesday off from work. Regardless of whether any of your or my predictions come true, we're probably all wrong. This is very true. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Capsule J. P.S. Please don't tell my boss. So hopefully your boss doesn't listen to this podcast. And hopefully Capsule J is not your real name. So
yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, thankfully those. There were some cool things in there for sure. Let's finish things off then with Flapjackal. Wrote in and said, I don't remember what predictions I thought of for the year, but for E3 I got some simple ones. So we have a Prime 4 trailer.
Most likely.
On Prime 4 trailer, Bally. You think it's happening?
I think if Prime 4 is not at this E3, something's gone terribly wrong with that game, and that's very concerning. So you've got to have a trailer.
I disagree with this sentiment completely. All we knew about that game was a logo. Like, they hadn't.
It's been the whole year. We got to at least see it.
That's 1 year. They hadn't even started work on this game. Like, they hardly had started. They couldn't even tell us what team was even making this game last year.
We've got to at least see a teaser trailer.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
In the same way that Sony revealed something like God of War yonks ago, and then they trickled out a little bit each E3 since. I don't think it's acceptable, really, to just do absolutely nothing.
But even then, God of War was 3 years into development when they first showed it. So
it's also probably got a lot. There's a lot fiddly stuff for that game, perhaps.
Well, I mean, so is Prime 4 going to be. It's a big budget game. It's on the new platform. It's HD. It's the first time they've done an HD Prime game. You know, like, there's a lot of factors here, and I really think, like, it's only been a year. I think people expecting a big Prime 4 blowout are going to be disappointed because they just haven't had the time.
Not a blowout, but I do think we have to see it.
Potentially. I'm still firmly in the camp that we just won't see anything about Prime 4 this year. It doesn't make sense. It's going to be a big gun for 2019, end of 2019, but not now. It hasn't had enough time to cook. So
if that gunship comes into Star Fox, it'll make up for it a bit.
Yeah, definitely. I like little things like that. Then he says, Last of Us 2 Explained, which I have no idea what that means, but okay.
Maybe like a trailer with a voiceover explaining something, is that? I don't know.
Sure. And then he has Smash 5 Explained. Yeah, I don't know what these explained means, but...
I think both of these games will be explained.
Yes, they will be explained at E3. People will get up on stage and explain The Last of Us 2. Not at Nintendo's conference, obviously.
I mean, that would be shocking.
Yes. A more in-depth look at Pokemon Let's Go. I think that is pretty obvious. That'll happen at the Treehouse, most likely. They'll do a lot of look. There'll probably be another trailer of Pokemon during the Nintendo Direct, but the Treehouse is where you're going to get.
And they got to reveal that mystery Pokemon.
Well, will they? I think they're going to save that in the lead up to this game when it comes out later in the year.
Well, if it's playable like I predict, they've got to reveal it, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. And there will be a new Xbox One version /gadget/app, which I don't think is going to happen. They literally put out the One X last year, so Xbox are not in a hardware year right now, so disagree with that one. An out-of-nowhere new game for an older Nintendo franchise.
Yeah, I mean, none of our predictions really hinted at this, but these ones are just impossible to predict.
Yeah,
aren't they?
because
Like,
you just don't know what it's going to
what could be coming back. I don't
Will
know.
Ice Climbers be revived as a, I don't know, Breath of the Wild style climbing simulator where you have to co-op Breath of the Wild climber? Yeah,
it's like
using
A
that
Way Out,
physics
but
engine.
Nintendo with the Ice Climbers.
Oh my god! Now that you've pitched that,
And you're going up a mountain. Oh my god,
I really want that to happen. I need a narrative co-op adventure with the Ice Climbers.
Yes.
This is perfect. Yes, Bally.
That would be fun.
Oh, that's a great... Wow. We're talking
Perfect
about like
use
not
of the
coming up with an
Joy-Cons.
idea.
Hello.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So each having one, and like you're just digging into the icicles with motion control as you like go up the mountain.
Yeah.
Let's just not put this out as a podcast. We just steal this idea and do it ourselves. This is a very good idea. I like it a lot. And then finally he says something about the PS5 and VR on Sony. So Sony, they have said that they are going to reveal some stuff this week, like VR stuff in the lead up to E3. So that's where a lot of the VR stuff is going to happen, I think, is the pre-show stuff before the actual press conference.
Are we tempted at all to pick up PSVR when it gets a massive price slash?
When it goes down, maybe. But like at the moment, I'm in a holding pattern on VR. I want to see what the next generation models are like if we even get to that, because right now I like what I've seen.
Aren't they? Just because of how slow it's been.
But I need the technology to improve. I need there to be a more robust library of good games. You know, there has to be better software offerings, and there just aren't right now. And regarding PS5, Sony have outright said they're not doing anything with new hardware like that this year. So yeah, that's not going to happen. But yes, thank you, Flapjackal, and thank you everyone else for sending in those E3 predictions. It's always fun to see what people think, because there's so many stuff, you know, so many things that you could be thinking about for E3, and we only cover a fraction of it. So good to get a bit more of a smorgasbord. And that, I guess, is going to pretty much wrap up the show. Bally, we are going into E3. Do you want to lay out the plans to reiterate them to people one more time so they know?
Sure. Well, this show that we're recording right now is going to go out at the end of the week, so Friday, hopefully, or Saturday, and then we are going to do a reaction straight after the Nintendo Direct, which is taking place. I think it's taking place at like 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 12th.
12th, yes.
12th of June.
It would be 5 p.m. our time, I think.
5 p.m.
is
UK
how it works
time.
out.
So,
yeah, UK
9
time.
a.m. West Coast, I think.
Yes.
No, that's wrong. Oh, I don't know.
It is. It's 9 a.m. West Coast. That is. It's
9 a.m.
Pacific
West
time.
Coast.
9 a.m. Pacific time. So wherever you are in the world, set your clock to 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's when it will happen.
Right.
I'm sure people will know what time and where, because it's the same every year. It's the Tuesday. It's Nintendo's day.
The best is the last.
Yes, they save it. They save it for the end, which is what we love.
Everyone's a bit tired of all the like shooters and sports games that are coming out, and everyone's
colour
like,
in our
"God, if I see another
lives."
goddamn driving game, I'm gonna jump off a cliff." And then they're like, "Wait, Nintendo, they're here to save the day, to move away from the big shooters, all that good stuff." So something a bit fresh on the Tuesday night.
There are saviors from the darkness, as always. So yes, that is going to be happening. So we'll get the podcast up as soon as we can. I think that it might be a little later because I want to get home and watch the Nintendo and the Sony, because the Sony will have been at 2 a.m. the night previously, and I'm not staying up this year because I have a job to do, so I can't do that anymore, and it's a shame. I'll probably take time off next year for E3.
Yeah,
just like starting a new job right when E3 is happening is just not a good thing to do. So yes, but let us then ask, if you are a new listener or someone who's just started listening to the show and you pop in and out, you can subscribe to us on various platforms, on iTunes, or just through any podcasting app that you have. Subscribing is something we don't really talk about that much, but it's very useful and important, and it also just gets you the podcast pretty much instantly whenever it goes out. And you don't have to worry about finding it somewhere or going to a specific page. It'll just pop up on your phone or whatever device you listen to it on and stay there.
So if you're listening to this prediction podcast and then you want our reaction podcast, hit subscribe after listening, and then you will get our reaction podcast into your feed as soon as possible.
Absolutely. So it's very easy to do. And in that same vein, if you enjoy the show, if you like the show, you don't want to give us money on Patreon, which is understandable, the best thing to do is to go over to iTunes and to write us a review. We've had some people give us just normal reviews, which is just clicking the star button, so like 5 stars or whatever. If you could help us out, writing a review is really valuable. So if possible, take a couple minutes out of your day, head on over to iTunes, write us a review. That would be amazing. And if you do, we will read them out on the show because we're very thankful to people who do that. It's very important. So appreciate it and hopefully let us get out to more people. And yeah, speaking of Patreon, we would like to thank our Patreon supporters, Bally.
Yes, thank you to our 2 $10 tier supporters there, of course, my girlfriend Caroline and Atari Alex. So thank you very much for your $10 tier support.
Absolutely.
Our last episode on Patreon was a look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
And then we've got an episode coming out this month for June. Yep. We're going to have a chat about that, an episode of TNL Ranks. So you'll want to catch that. That's our $2 tier.
Yeah. So yes, and thank you to everyone else who supports us on Patreon. It is very, very kind of you to throw your money at us.
We're almost at our next goal.
Yeah, very close. Getting very close to being able to get all the big Nintendo releases ASAP and give you all the coverage of them. It'll be very good. It forced Bally to play Mario Tennis. Get him on that.
If you want me to play that game, we just need a little bit more support.
Gotta do it. And then also a quick reminder that our Backlog Club is still coming up. We'll probably do that the show after E3.
Episode 121.
Yeah, so 121 is when we're shooting for. It's a fun game so far. Bally and I have both been enjoying it. So get on to play Punch-Out on Wii. You can download it on the Wii U Virtual Console. You can also probably find it on eBay or on Amazon somewhere. It's a bit more hard to find than some other games we've done, but it's a short game. It's a fun game. Get going. It's a good time. And that is pretty much it. You can find us in various places. We're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher. We are not on Google Play because it's still not in our country. It's 2018, Bally. It's still not in our country. Don't know what's going on. Google, supposed to be a global company, just not on it.
I've not heard anyone talk about Google Play other than you.
Yeah, I know.
It at the end
it's
of the
because
show
one person mentioned it to me once and was like, "You should be on Google Play," and I'm like, "You're right. We should be on Google Play." And I looked into it, and it's like, nope. We don't.
No,
we don't do your country. And one day we might be on Spotify when we become as big as the Giant Bombcast or Kind of Funny. But until then, I'm sorry, we can't be on Spotify because you need to be very large to be on Spotify. And yeah, but you can find us in the usual podcasting places wherever good podcasts are sold. And that is in a lot of places. You can obviously find us on Twitter. You can find the podcast account at TNL Podcast. That's a good place to go to get links to our Discord, to our YouTube channel, all the good things there. And you can find me at LordNBZ. That's LORDNBZ. Bally, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91. That is also my name on the PlayStation Network. Is that what's called? PlayStation Network? PlayStation. Add me on there.
It's your second plug of the PSN.
Got to get on the PlayStation Network.
Yeah. If you want to add Bally, he's not playing any online games and doesn't have PS Plus, so it really is useless to add him, but go ahead if you want to anyway.
I'm a really exciting friend to have on there if you want to.
You just see what he's playing and see what trophies.
And I don't even collect trophies either, so I don't know what.
So really, why would you add Bally?
Why on earth would you add me?
Just for fun, I guess. So there we go. I think that's pretty much it. A lot of things to talk about, Bally. Anything else closing before we go?
I'm going away for a week to watch some E3 and to play some Celeste, so I'm very excited.
That sounds perfect. I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time. I'm also looking forward to E3. It's going to be very, very fun. A lot of things to do, a lot of things to watch, a lot of things to chat about, and we'll do that. So, thank you all for listening. We'll be back very soon, of course,
on Tuesday.
On Tuesday with a Nintendo presentation. Until then, thank you for listening, and engage the hype train. Choo choo! musical interlude used on today's show was Moonlight Temptation from Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Copyright Inti Creates 2018. We're so organised. We're the most organised. We just know everything we're doing.
Well, at least we don't just start spouting out a random episode number like RFN.
Yeah,
do.
like other podcasts. Wow, dragging RFN, man. Terrible.
They don't know what they're talking about.
No, clearly.
I think this is 118 actually.
Is it? No, it's 19. I'm pretty sure
you
it's
just
19.
typed in the episode number wrong on our YouTube channel.
Oh, for fuck's sake! What? Fix that, Bally. You're social manager.
You put anyway. Right.
That's my fault. I'm great. I know I'm good at my job. Yep. This is great.
It is 119. Not that was
119.
the last episode on YouTube. But
Okay, change that. Thanks.